Thank you for being with us here. We continue. I've having the pleasure to introduce another hero and leader and champion in our community, J.D. Steele. J.D., good morning and welcome to Conversations with Al McFarland.
Good morning, Al. It's great to be here.
Well, great to have you here. And you've got a monumental event coming up as well. You're going to be celebrating the 25th, I think, year.
25th anniversary.
Of the Steele Singers. Talk about that.
Well, we're really excited this year to be celebrating our 25th anniversary of our holiday show at the Fitzgerald Theater on December 11th and 12th. And this is a milestone. When we started doing it at the Cricket Theater back in 1984, none of us really envisioned that we would be doing it on an annual basis for this long. But, of course, we've really been blessed to enjoy a really exciting musical career for a long time.
Let's talk about the career. How many are you, number one, in the Steeles, and how did you sort of gravitate to becoming both a group, and how do you manage being a group but also your individual personalities and individual careers?
Well, there are six of us in the family. And 5 of us that perform professionally. My sister Janice, who lives in California, is the pastor of a church there. She has toured and recorded with us from time to time over the past 25 to 30 years. And one of the things that's really exciting for our show this year is Janice will be here to perform with us. So it'll be the first time in a long time that all 6 of us will be able to hit the stage together. And that is absolutely thrilling. I can't tell you how thrilling that is. To have all 6 of us together. And then we've got a lot of family and friends coming in town for the show. So it's going to be a big celebration. And we've been singing since we were little kids. I started singing when I was 7 or 8 years old, growing up in Gary, Indiana. Gary was, and still is, a city chock full of great talent. But when we were growing up in the 60s...
is that where Michael Jackson was?
The Jackson 5,
yeah.
I used to go see them at talent shows. I knew Jackie and Tito, and, people would confuse us because we sang gospel music and they sang R&B. But they were singing around town in talent shows. We were singing around town in churches. Denise Williams and her family were singing. The Hearns family, the Blake. It was a city full of families that sang. And it was heavily influenced by what was going on in Detroit, the Motown sound, which was developing. So everybody in Gary was emulating that also. So Gary, Detroit, and Chicago were really partners in crime and developing musical talent.
So how did you guys get into it one by one or as a group? How did you develop from being a family that sang into actually professional musicians?
Well, basically what happened when we were kids. My father, my late father, who really encouraged us to practice and sing in church, used to get us on these programs in Gary and in Chicago. So we would open for Mahalia Jackson, James Cleveland, the Blind Boys, the Soul Stirrers, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, all of those great gospel groups we used to open for when we were kids. And then my father really did not want us to get into music professionally when we were kids. He wanted us to get an education. So he did not allow some of the people who wanted to get us involved professionally when we were in high school. He didn't want that to happen. He didn't allow that to happen. And thank God he didn't, because I really cherished the opportunity to get an education, as do all my sisters and brothers. And I came here in 1976 to the Twin Cities first. I was the first to come. I didn't know a soul here. I was recruited in the job market here after college.
Where'd you go?
I worked for 3M Company.
Okay.
I used to be a marketing rep for 3M Company. My claim to fame was marketing Post-it notes. And then I went on to work for a friend of mine, Ed Lloyd, for Everything for the Office, and helped get that company off the ground. So I had a really exciting marketing and sales career back then. But I always wanted to do music, and I started out singing and directing the choir at Pilgrim Baptist Church back in the late 70s. And that's how it started for me. Then I started working at the Children's Theater Company. That was my first professional paying job. And then I went from there to Mixed Blood Theater and a variety died, and the rest is pretty much history. My brothers and sisters came one by one to visit me. I talked them into staying. And Geraldine and Fred, after they moved here, that's when we reformed the Steele family singers, the Steeles. And the first performance we did was at the State Theater, opening for The Sounds of Blackness. I remember meeting Gary Hines back then, and that was probably back in 1979, I think. So that's how it all started in the Twin Cities. I met Prince in 1977 over at Bernadette Anderson's house, and I used to sit down in the basement and listen to them rehearse. So I met him before he had a recording contract, so he and I developed a relationship back in the early days that blossomed into a collaborative relationship in the late 80s, and touring and working with him. So this is a wonderful, and then your family, your brothers, we used to perform in nightclubs all over town together, Ipso Facto and the Steeles, where we used to alternate who ran the fine line back in the 80s. So we go back a ways, and it's just been exciting to develop in this musical family in the Twin Cities.
I'm Al McFarland. You're listening to Conversations with Al McFarland. My guest is J.D. Steele, the inimitable J.D. Steele. J.D., good to have you here. And remind you, listener, that the annual Christmas with the Steeles is coming up very shortly here. It's going to be on Saturday, I think Friday
and Saturday.
Give the dates.
December 11th and 12th, Friday and Saturday at the Fitzgerald Theater downtown. And tickets are available through the Fitzgerald box office at 651-290-1221, or you can call Ticketmaster.
You can also go to fitzgeraldtheater.org for additional details.